and I'm glad to see you all showed up today. I know finals week is coming up pretty soon, but there is one more topic that I wanted to talk to you about today. It's going to be very short, so you really don't need to worry about it, but afterwards, you guys can study for your final all you want. Okay, so the topic today is lake effect snowstorms. Okay, Kate, do you think you could tell me predominantly where they occur? What? Oh, yeah. Lake effect snowstorms predominantly occur within the Great Lakes region of North America. Kate, that's correct. Lake effect snowstorms do predominantly occur within the Great Lakes system from as early as November to as late as March. I want you guys to copy this diagram down because it is going to be on your final. Okay, so these storms form from the passing of cold polar jet stream over relatively warm lake waters, which then produces an internal convective boundary layer, which causes the warm water and the moisture from the lake to rise and convect with the cold air, condensing into clouds first and then freezing and precipitating as snow over the ground. Are there any questions so far? Yeah, I have a question. I was wondering, are there any factors, I guess, that affect how lake effect storms form or like how much precipitation they produce? Yes, Sarah May, that is a great question. There are a number of small scale features that do affect the overall extent of the precipitation field as well as the amount of snowfall. The first one I'm going to discuss is ice cover. Now, as the ice cover amounts increase, so like more ice over the lakes, you're going to have a decrease in sensible heat flux, which will decrease your precipitation. This usually only happens for Lake Erie and Lake Ontario in late winter. So like late January, late February, the lakes are usually almost completely covered in ice. Lake effect snowstorms aren't happening as often or if at all because there is a drastic decrease in evaporation as more ice covers the lake. Ice cover also affects wind speeds, so the more ice cover there is, you're going to have a decrease in wind speed due to an increase in friction, which will also decrease the extent of the precipitation field, so it's not going to go as far inland and it's not going to go very far. So we've talked about ice cover, we've talked about wind speeds. Next, we're going to talk about topography. Okay, topography causes this process called orographic lift. Now, this process is an adiabatic process that causes air to rise over a land barrier, such as a hill or a mountain range. This then leads to clouds precipitating all of their snow, their rain, whatever, on the windward side of this hill or mountain range, so the side that's getting all of the wind. This will then create a rain shadow or precipitation shadow on the leeward side, the side that isn't getting any wind. This will in turn decrease the extent of the precipitation field, so it's not going to go as far inland and there's not going to be as much snowfall in certain parts farther inland. Miss Schley, I have a question. I was wondering, like, are there any societal impacts to these lake effect snowstorms? Like, is the economy affected at all, or just like any societal impacts? Catherine, that is a great question. There are a number of societal impacts caused by these lake effect snowstorms, and the first one I'm going to talk to you about is the economy. Now, the economy takes a hit from reduced retail sales and increased road clearing costs, but can benefit greatly from an increase in winter recreation so long as there is sustained and substantial snowfall. But unfortunately, this sustained and substantial snowfall can cause problems with transportation. The biggest hit to transportation are flights being canceled due to whiteouts or roads being unclear. So, roads being cleared requires a lot of money, which is a big governmental hit on the economy. Thankfully, There is a large private sector for snow removal businesses, and they benefit greatly during the LES lake effect snow season. Um, since it is so important for the roads to be clear, transportation is pretty important. It affects both the economy and winter recreation, which is our next societal impact. So long as there, again, sustained and substantial snowfall, winter recreation can continue. A lot of people love to go skiing, sledding, snowboarding, ice skating during the winter season, and a lot of those require snow. That being said, we need to consider like the amount of snow that these lake effect snowstorms produce. Um, there have been record snowfalls in Pennsylvania, New York, Ohio, uh, some places in Canada that have snowfall of like 4, 5, 6 feet. Um, think about how much snow that actually is and how heavy snow is. So a lot of people have been spending money to increase their load bearing capacity of their roofs. That way they don't cave in. That's a big deal. That's a lot of snow to cave in your roof. Another thing we need to consider with lake effect snowstorms is the effect of climate change on these snowstorms. Any decrease or increase in magnitude and frequency is going to have positive and negative effects on the society. So think of the negative effects of the economy. Those are going to be reversed with a decrease in magnitude and frequency of these snowstorms. But there's also going to be a negative impact on winter recreation. A lot of people enjoy winter recreation, and a decrease in magnitude and frequency is going to affect that. It's going to reduce the amount of winter recreation going on. That being said, talking about climate change and how it affects lake effect snowstorms is actually a pretty big deal. Um, as temperatures increase, like global temperatures increase, there is going to be a decline in ice cover, which you would think would increase the amount of LES events. But as these temperatures increase, you're not going to have that cold polar jet stream coming in. It's not going to be as cold. The temperature difference isn't going to be as drastic, so we're not going to get as much snow. In turn, we're actually going to be getting more rain, less freezing, less snow, and that's different. It's completely different than what we're used to. LES is not going to be lake effect snowstorms anymore. It's going to be lake effect rainstorms. That's a pretty big deal. It's a pretty big change. Okay, so that's pretty much everything you need to know about lake effect snowstorms, how they're caused, what affects their extent, um, what societal impacts they have, and how climate change really affects them. If there's not any other questions that you have for me, then that's all I have. You can either stay here and study for your final, or you guys can head on out. I mean, it's a Zoom call, so I really don't care. But yeah, anyway, have a great weekend, and I'll see you next week for the final.